approach metaphysics for the first time, it's easy to meet or encounter some obscure or difficult terms which has to be spelled out because they are usually very important. They convey important concepts. One of these terms is possible intellect, which is a kind of fancy expression by itself. What is it? It's an Aristotelian terminology that St. Thomas Aquinas recovers and uses consistently in his work. Well, first of all, we need to simplify the meaning of this expression. Possible intellect indicates just the intellect as a human faculty or power. So the real question is why our intellectual power can be called sometimes possible, or, which is the same, passive. And this is the whole point, that our knowing cognitive faculties are passive compared to what they do, what their objects. Why are they passive? Because they receive a perfection in themselves. Aquinas usually explains this using the Latin term pati, which is the infinite form of undergoing, or suffer. Even in Latin it also means suffering. What does it mean? It means that it says that there is a meaning of the term pati which indicates to undergo something but remaining what you are, to acquire a perfection, to go from potency to act, to actuality, without ceasing to be what you were before. So it indicates basically the act potency transition, but in a case in which the faculty remains what it is. Think of an analogical example, the vision. When we see something, we do have the faculty of sight, but we are also seeing something, which is a different thing. Our capacity to see is actualized. It goes from potentially seeing something to actually seeing something. It means that our eyes are receiving something in themselves which actualizes them according to what we now know in vision, according to color. So it means that we still have the same capacity. The capacity is there, the capacity to see, plus a further perfection, which is the actual sight of something. So the faculty, the capacity to see, is receiving something into itself. That's why it's kind of indicates the suffering of something or undergoing a change into themselves. They receive, it's like a container. In this sense, they are passive compared to the object. And the same goes with the intellect. The only difference is that the intellect doesn't know according to color. It receives its object in terms of intelligibility. When we know something through our mind, through our thought, we know an intelligible object. So our mind receives this intelligible object. So our capacity to know, our intellect, is passive, but it exists. And it exists receiving something which becomes a further perfection. So it goes from potency to act, to a further act. And this is pretty much what possible intellect means. It means the intellect as a passive faculty that we have, that receives knowledge, remaining what it is, but receiving a further act of in its own being.